And then there was that time this happened. True story. Day of the doughboy. In the late 90s, me and three of my friends, Chris, Jody, and Tim, decided to start our own public access TV show. We were called the Slack Pack. It was a comedy show along the lines of Saturday Night Live or The Kids in the Hall. We wrote, filmed, and edited everything ourselves. It was a lot of hard work, but we were very passionate about it. Our subject matter was completely off the wall, and some people considered it offensive. The local access TV station wouldn't even air our material till after 11p.mm, but we were still thrilled to be on the airwaves regardless. One day we were all sitting around writing up new skit material. Somebody proposed the idea about a mentally ill man who had the delusion he was being harassed and followed by the Pillsbury Doughboy everywhere he went. It sounded funny, so we thought up some scenarios, came up with the costumes, and went to work filming it. One scene in particular we called the dream sequence was about the man trying to sleep at night. But he couldn't due to having nightmares about the doughboy. In his dream, everything was lovely at first. He would be skipping through a field on a bright sunny afternoon laughing and singing. But soon into his blissful day, the doughboy would show up and his dream would turn into a nightmare. So the day came to film the dream sequence. There were 5 of us there. I was running the camera. Jody would be playing the mentally ill man. Chris was the doughboy. John, our friend, would be the grim reaper, to add a sense of horror to the dream turning dark and going bad. And Tim was a naked orph lingering in the woods in the background. Now, if you're asking yourself, what is a orph, why is he naked, and what the hell does it have to do with the scene we were filming? Then your question is perfectly valid. I have no idea why we decided to go with that. Maybe to add confusion or shock for when the dream turned bad? Nevertheless, we decided to roll with it. We found a field right behind Chris's house that was perfect for filming the scene. It was Aslow property of the Southern Baptist Church that lay across the creek from Chris's house. We had played there as kids growing up and never had any problems doing so. So we didn't think twice about filming there. Since it was supposed to be a happy dream at first, we decided to gay Jody up a little. All he was wearing was a pair of bikini underwear and a Peter Pan hat with a feather sticking out of it. Chris was wearing white jogging pants, a stuffed white sweatshirt, and a chef's hat. Any visible skin we painted with white body paint. He had a spatula in one hand and an egg beater in the other. He looked like the living doughboy, and his imitated high-pitched squeal only solidified it. John was in a black cloak wearing a skull mask and sporting his reaper sickle. Tim had fully disrobed and was wearing nothing but that ugly orph mask and had disappeared into the woods awaiting his cue to come out when the nightmare started. As we started filming, everything was going great. I was getting some hilarious footage of Jody prancing around in his X-rated Peter Pan outfit, smelling flowers and just being a clown. Chris Doughboy and John Reaper were standing behind me as I was filming. "This is going to be awesome," I said, as we were all certain we were filming movie magic. Just then I heard walking behind us and got a tap on my shoulder. As I turned around, there was a man in a suit and 2 policemen on either side of him. "I want to know what is going on here," said the man in the suit. The cops looked baffled. As we should have anticipated, local passers-by had been concerned by the bizarre individuals gathered in the field. Certain it had nothing to do with a church function, they called the cops and the preacher immediately. "We are filming a scene for our public access TV show," I said nervously. They just stared at us with disgust and disbelief. And the longer they did, it dawned on me how completely insane this looked, and that there was no way we would be allowed to finish. "I don't care what you're doing," said the preacher. "It's time for you to go." With no desire to even try to explain any of this, I reached for the camera bag and was starting to leave. Then Chris spoke up. "Now hold on a second, we are doing absolutely nothing wrong here. Now before I go any further, there is something you need to know." Chris was an avid, outspoken defender of civil rights and personal freedom. He knew the law as well, if not better, than the police themselves. He made it a point to exercise his rights fully as an American citizen, and sharply defended them if they were being trampled. We all should. With that being said, we go back to the field. "You're trespassing on private property," one cop said. "I live right there," Chris yells as he pointed to his house with an egg beater. "I grew up here, I was a member of this church and played in this field 100 times. Have you never been asked to leave? Why now?" As I'm thinking to myself, this is getting out of hand, I look over at John. He's just standing there, being a good little grim reaper, quietly holding his harvester while watching a pissed-off Pillsbury doughboy wave his spatula and egg beater at a preacher and 2 cops. Jody is standing there with his hands on his hips, wearing his bikini briefs, of course. He looked like he was waiting for an opportunity to jump in on the argument with Chris. As I'm trying to get Jody to see my silent look of don't say a word, it hits me. Tim is in the woods completely nude. If the cops see Tim, we are all going to jail. No doubt about it. I started scanning the woods with my eyes looking for him. I made sure not to turn my head or body so the cops wouldn't see me looking in that direction. I don't think they were paying much attention to me, though. I mean, would you? If you had the Pillsbury doughboy schooling you on personal freedom? Then I saw him. He was standing behind a tree fairly close, peeking around, and he still had on the Orf mask. So now there's a naked Orf behind a tree spying on this insane situation that keeps escalating. Finally, the cops had had enough. Look, this man owns the property. He doesn't want you here. Leave now or go to jail. Chris paused and stared with an angry glare. As angry as the doughboy can look anyways. Okay, whatever, said Chris. As we gathered up our stuff and were walking away, the preacher cracked a grin that said, "That's what I thought." Chris yelled, "Yay, be smug about it, buddy. That's a real good Christian testimony you got there." The cops started walking behind us to herd us off the property, and so me, the Pillsbury doughboy, the Grim Reaper, and the X-rated Peter Pan walked back across the creek to Chris's house. All the while I'm thinking to myself, please don't let them see the naked Orf in the woods. We got back to Chris's house and waited for the cops to leave. When they did, Tim was finally able to come out and join us. He was back to normal, fully clothed and unmasked. "What do we do now?" I said. "We're gonna finish filming," Chris said sternly. Everybody kind of looked at each other with a, "and how do we go about that" look. Chris, sensing our doubt, went into a 5-minute motivational speech about how this was our community, our rights, and, well, be damned if we let those fascist cops intimidate us when we weren't even breaking the law. By the end of it, we had all decided that the next day we were going down to the police station to file complaints on those cops. "We will finish filming at the elementary school across the street," Chris said. "That's not private property." Fired up from his speech, we all agreed. And so our motley crew of dough, death, gay, and bizarre marched across the street to finish our project. Looking back now, it reminded me of a bad trip version of the Beatles' Abbey Road album cover. All of us in a single file line crossing the street looking absolutely insane. By the time we had reached the spot that we were going to use, people had already came out of their houses and were pointing and shaking their heads. 2 big guys came walking out all slow and tough guy-like to the edge of the road. "What the hell are y'all doing?" one yelled. "We ain't gonna have no devil around here." Now it was Jody's turn. He just snapped, "Yeah, that's what we're doing." "We are the talking to the devil," he yelled back. Praise S810. One of the men went to cross the street toward us, but the other guy pulled him back with a look like, "No, don't, these guys are seriously disturbed." And right there in the middle of Jody's say 10 rant, you guessed it, the cops showed up again. Well, actually it was just one, but it was one from the church a few minutes before. "All right, guys, that's it," he said. I was sure we were all getting cuffed right then. Chris, with a little more subdued attitude this time, said, "But we're not on private property." "It doesn't matter," said the cop. "You guys can't keep doing this. You're scaring the people around here half to death and being a public nuisance." By this time, a fairly good crowd had gathered and people driving by had slowed down to Christmas light viewing speed. "I just don't understand what the big deal is." Then the cop snapped back. "Look at yourself," he blurted out. "Have you really stopped to look at yourselves?" Everything got quiet for a second, and amongst the silence the cop said, "I mean, you look criminally insane. I should have you voluntarily committed, all of you. I mean, if I walked outside my house and seen this in my neighborhood, I would call the cops too." Right then, we all looked at each other. We kind of agreed and gave a hesitant nod that he was right. The cop said, "Now I don't care what your intentions are." The cop added, "But if you all don't leave right now, and I mean disappear, I'm going to one way or another stuff all of you in the back of my car, and you're all going to jail." So discouraged and defeated by the man, we bowed our heads. We just looked at each other standing there. The doughboy, a naked dwarf, a grim reaper, a fairy. Peter Pan all retreated back to our house with a very slow cop at a distance escorting us, shaking his head. Having made history that day that the locals still talk about to this day, the slack pack heard one of the onlookers say off in the distance, "My God, Mildred, that was the most disturbing thing I've ever looked out my window and seen. I'll have nightmares for years." From the church with the preacher all the way to the elementary school, the slack pack wreaked havoc down Merritt Drive that day. And to this very moment, every time I drive that church, if I roll my window down, I swear I can hear somewhere off in the distance the doughboy say, "Ah, he, nothing says lovin' like my homemade." Say 10, Gay Peter Pan, Grim Reaper, Naked Orf, Slack Pack Muffins, they're all ooey gooey. Tune in next week for next episode upload of the Slack Pack in Mr. Bugatti, about a kingpin that's really not dealing what you think at all, but rather dealing and peddling Pez candy. And don't worry, there'll be more fights, more cops, skateboards, people riding on the hood of a black Jaguar car, filming a local public access TV show that just wanted to bring entertainment at its finest, with the tall, dark, curly-haired kid named Greg, a long-haired guy with a tattoo on his stomach, named No Jody, a shirtless shaved head kid with a red goatee and wallet chain named Timmy, and our fearless leader Mr. Chris Ray with his 80s glam dark long hair, standing in a circle surrounded by cops, shaking his finger around to each one of them saying, "You cops are classic and you don't know who you're messing with. I know my rights and I know my laws." Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, tune in next week as we all stick our hands out by waist and thrust our hips into the wind and scream. There's no time like the right time. And remember, don't forget to shim sham on the flim flam with the Jim Jam in the palm of my hand. Oh no, it's the cops again. Everybody run. And each one of us run except for Chris Ray, who stands there waiting. Standing on the roof of his red 79 Farfignugan VW red station wagon with spray painted on the hood, a giant green sweet leaf, and down the side of the car in black spray paint written "I sell crack. Try and pull me over." Next time on the Slack Pack Stories Revisited.